I've been saying, whether it's been on air, whether it's been guests I've had on this show, this to me is one of the weirdest mock draft seasons I have ever covered. It
I,
is it is a draft that I feel like there are premium positions that have a lot of depth of talent, but there are differing opinions on where said talent will go. So I think outside of Cam Ward right now going to Tennessee, we're pretty set. At first, when the draft process first started, it sounded like the Browns were interested in a quarterback. Shador Sanders was mocked there. Since then, it feels like Shador has sort of gone down the board. Seems like he's falling, and it almost seems like to me, Travis Hunter is locked in number two to Cleveland. What's your take first of all on this draft in general, and then we'll start getting into the picks here a little bit.
I think it comes down to a lot of teams having a lot of different needs that don't revolve around the quarterback position. I think a lot of teams would say they don't need a quarterback. There's a handful of teams, including my Steelers, including the Cleveland Browns, that need a quarterback. And it's just a matter of do these teams decide to go for a quarterback this year? Do they decide to hold off and go for one next year? But I like your take on Travis Hunter going to Cleveland, especially with the Cleveland Browns having three second round picks. What they would be able to do, they would be able to take Travis Hunter at two, and then they would be able to explore, okay, how do we figure out a way to get Sanders to Cleveland? Because I think having that combo of him and Travis Hunter on the same team would be a massive upgrade over what they could have at all. Even Joe Flacco. I mean, Joe Flacco isn't a horrible starter for the year, but I mean, you know, being able to have Shador there for next year, even to sit behind Flacco, or have them have an old-fashioned quarterback battle. I think that's great for Cleveland. Pittsburgh
Well,
Steelers, I don't know what they're going to do.
well, now that Flacco's there, at the time of this recording, he signed yesterday, and they also have Kenny Pickett in the building. I had said to me, it sort of feels like it takes the Kirk Cousins conversation out of Cleveland. And to me, it just because you read all the tea leaves and you hear all the reports, it does sound like to me Travis Hunter feels like a lock at this point to go two to Cleveland, and then Abdul Carter, the defensive end out of Penn State, feels like a lock to go number three to the Giants.
Right. If I'm the Giants, I mean, I mean, the front office in New York probably met with Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson wouldn't go to the Giants to sit the bench. I just,
Yeah, and they have Jameis Winston too. So I don't see them taking a quarterback at three. Now, the giant issue is I think they would love Travis Hunter because they already have a very good defensive line. Now, you can have an enriched riches of defensive line talent, which I think if you put Abdul Carter with Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, and that group, that may be a top defensive line in the league. And I think what the Giants are thinking is if we have 1A or 1B best defensive line, our offensive line, we have our tackles solidified. We may need a guard here or two. But if Russ doesn't turn the ball over, like if we get one more skill position on offense, like I know the Giants were a complete disaster last year, but I'm looking at this going, their roster is not terrible. I think they're going to be a better team next year.
right. And I mean, even if just a 500 team, I think some Giants fans would really enjoy that. I know it's not really up to their standard, but when you have the defending Super Bowl champion, your Eagles in the division, maybe that's the best the Giants can do.
And they also have Jaden Daniels and the Commanders, and they obviously made moves this offseason. So with that, I think then New England probably takes the best tackle on the board, which is Will Campbell out of LSU. And then, we'll see where the cards fall. My point is, for your Steelers, I think from what I'm reading, it basically comes down to if Shador Sanders is not taken at number nine by the New Orleans Saints, I have a feeling he will fall right into the lap of the Steelers at 21. I don't think somebody would trade up. Again, maybe a Cleveland with like a Denver right in front of Pittsburgh, maybe. But from what I've heard, it sounds like the Browns are more enthralled with Jalen Milroe out of Alabama, who worked with the new Browns offensive coordinator, Tommy Reese.
I don't know, Brandon. I feel like if you got to look at the Cleveland Browns situation, I think when you look at teams like Cincinnati, if they want to make themselves kind of Cincinnati with a defense in the short term, okay, we're looking at Cleveland. You would be able to have the best, what a lot of people view as one of the best quarterbacks in the draft this year, along with his number one teammate and his number one target. I mean, that's sort of comparable to Burrow and Chase. Now, not talent wise, but it's the blueprint of what they want their offense to be. At the end of the season last year, they threw it 50, 60 times a game. I could see this Cleveland Browns team next year being an aired out football team, especially with the questions surrounding Nick Chubb. Is he going to come back? Who are they going to bring in a running back? But Cleveland has a wealth of assets. And I would be shocked if they don't make a trade to go up and get Shedeur. It just seems like the number one thing for them to do. Whereas now at this point, I could definitely see Rodgers signing with the Steelers. Now it's pretty much, I mean, a done deal at this
So,
point.
so
It
I
feels
thought it was
weird.
gonna happen Wednesday night at Pat McAfee's big night out. I thought Aaron was gonna show up there and be the whole thing. And here I am in Pittsburgh, and I'm signing here for 1 year. That did not happen. Now he's probably waiting around in the draft and seeing what they're gonna do. I mean, in my opinion, Mike, and tell me if I'm wrong, there is no way the Steelers don't take a quarterback.
There's no way the Steelers don't take a quarterback. I don't know about that take, Braden, because I feel like the drop off between like your Cam Ward and your Shadur Sanders is like up here, and then Jalen Milrow and Will Howard and
That's not what these draft experts are saying.
Jackson Dart. I just
Most of these draft experts are now saying that it's Ward and then Sanders is in the group with Dart, Milrow. And then there's the other group of Howard, McCord, Riley Leonard from Notre Dame. That's sort of the way the draft board, and from what I've been reading and hearing, that's sort of the way I see it now.
well, I mean, let's just say this. Are you saying that the Steelers will definitely take a quarterback with an early pick, or are you saying that just
No,
in
I
general?
I think at 21 they will take a quarterback, and I absolutely think if Shador is there, he is going to Pittsburgh.
Oh, well, I think if Shadur's there, I think it's too great of an opportunity to pass up because, say, for example, Aaron Rodgers does still want to show up. I think this Shadur situation kind of like it leaves the ball in Aaron's court. I don't think that the Pittsburgh organization and the Pittsburgh fans would be upset with Shadur Sanders because that basically leads a, you know, come in or do you not to Aaron
Yeah.
Rodgers. It's not really our whole season doesn't really waver on whether Aaron Rodgers shows up or not. And I think from if you look at things in the locker room, Cam Hayward, Darius Slay, or I think it was Deshaun Elliott, and TJ Watt, all these players on the Steelers defense, they're kind of against the whole Aaron Rodgers situation. I haven't seen, I mean, besides the two wide receivers of Pickens and Metcalf, I haven't seen anybody that necessarily supports and Aaron Rodgers signing to Pittsburgh. But we'll see what happens. It's just really interesting, and it's going to be an unbelievable draft. It's weird though. I don't see the Browns letting the Steelers take Sanders. I mean, they basically they passed on Big Ben Roethlisberger, and I'm not making that comparison. I'm just saying,
Well, I mean, if the regime does not fall in love with Shador, then I don't think that they would really care. And that's sort of my takeaway is they don't see Shador Sanders as a great quarterback prospect because, in my opinion, I think if they viewed Shador as the way, my opinion is if they draft Shador, you might as well take him at two because you don't even take the risk of somebody trading up to you. And I get Travis Hunter could be a potential very good player, but if you think Shador is that guy at two, to me, you don't even take the chance and you just go get him.
Right. Which I think early on before all these meetings, I think I had a lot of friends say Shadir's the guy, Shadir's the guy. And now they're kind of looking at their second round assets and thinking, how could we turn it around and get both? It'll be interesting to see which of those two teams, or if it's somebody like the Saints or the Raiders that gets his services, because it'll be interesting for a whole
Yeah,
season.
I think Vegas is the perfect spot for him, but it does sound like that they're going to go Geno Smith and maybe get an Ashton Gentry out of Boise State. And obviously they have Pete Carroll now, Chip Kelly as the OC in that very tough division. Um, what are your thoughts? I don't know if I asked you this the last time you were on. So DK Metcalf became a Pittsburgh Steeler. Do you think that they're going to keep DK and George Pickens? I mean, they're both very similar receivers.
Well, I mean, I think they got to give it about one season of them together. But I did see some trade reports about possibly George Pickens being dealed draft night. So that's also a possibility. So interesting, right? I think it all comes down to the quarterback situation. If they are able to do what they want to do, either get Sanders or Rodgers, I think Pickens stays. If not, I think it would be a great time to trade and get assets.
If they don't take a quarterback in round one, like you said, to me that signals they believe Aaron's coming. But I don't know if you can. Once you have a handshake agreement with Aaron that he's going to sign after the draft, your quarterback situation right now, the only one active on the roster is Mason Rudolph, and everybody knows, including Pittsburgh, is not going to cut it. So like you said, if they don't take a quarterback at round one, who do you think that target could be? And then do they go out? Do they get another quarterback somewhere in the draft?
I don't know. I mean, when I look at the draft board, I see a guy like Derek Harmon. He's a defensive
Yeah.
tackle from Oregon. I think a lot of teams out there and a lot of mock draft experts think we're going defensive line. Makes a ton of sense. The Steelers have not been great at necessarily stopping the run the past few years, so it could be a great spot um, to really beef up, make that defensive line top 10 in the league again. And hopefully, there's a situation where we don't deal TJ Watt either, but we might want to, you know, take a defensive tackle. So then it beefs things up, and then we move Nick Herbig in that role if TJ Watt ends up gone in a year.
Is that a I did not think that that was a serious proposition. Do you really think it's on the board?
I think he's doing it for leverage. I think when he sees Myles Garrett getting paid $40 million, he thinks he's worthy of $40 million. I don't think he wants to leave the team, but I think he thinks like, hey man, like we don't really necessarily know what we're doing for the upcoming season. I believe I'm a better player than Myles Garrett, which it's up to people's interpretation on who's the better player, Watt or Garrett. But when you look at Watt's body of work, he's been injured for a good part of it since his deal. I think he wasn't able to register a sack in 10 of the 18 games this year. Not saying TJ Watt is necessarily falling off a cliff. He's one of the best pass rushers the league has ever seen. But at the same time, I feel like if the Steelers are able to strike where the iron's on, say if everything falls flat, say if Aaron Rodgers decides to retire, if Shadur Sanders, let's say he doesn't end up in Pittsburgh, where do you go from here if you're the Steelers? The draft next year in 2026 is in Pittsburgh. And I feel like it would be a good time for them to reshuffle the deck. But I think these next few weeks are very critical. If it's a scenario where it could be a quarterback room of Aaron Rodgers, Shadur Sanders, and Mason Rudolph, and we would cut Skylar Thompson, that would be big time. And that would show the fan base that, hey, we're in win now mode. And during the rest of Mike Tomlin's tenure, we're going to give it what we can. As a fan, I would like that, but then again, I don't know what the next few seasons will be like after Aaron Rodgers. What should their Sanders' development will be like? Because we all know the Steelers. I mean, they operate off of raw talent at wide receiver and a rough blitzing defense. They're not really into developing quarterbacks, offensive line talent, or just like innovative plays that really get you over that next hump. So we'll see
No,
what.
and that's you mentioned the offensive line. I think that that's the bigger issue in Pittsburgh, not the quarterback play. And we talked about it earlier this offseason how barely could score a touchdown in the last 5 games of the year. I'm not saying Russell Wilson played, terrible by any means or he was horrible, but for whatever reason, and you hit on it, for like the last half decade since Roethlisberger retired, the Steelers have not gotten two positions right: the quarterback and the offensive line, and they've led the league in defensive spending, and this is an offensive week.
Mhm. Yeah, it's interesting, but my gut feeling as far as what happens is I believe that Aaron Rodgers does sign with Pittsburgh, and I believe that Shedeur Sanders either ends up in New Orleans, Cleveland, or Las Vegas. And then we go from there. The Steelers do not have a second round pick this year due to the DK Metcalf trade. If I'm Cleveland and I want to jazz things up, I definitely go with one of the Ohio State running backs in the second round. Um, I think it's like to the Cleveland front office and the Cleveland fan base, you know, you look at somebody like Travion Henderson, you
Yeah.
know, he's just it's like it's like when you go to a restaurant and you've been going there for years and you get the same meal over and over
Yeah.
and over again. Trayvon Henderson's a 4-year player in college football, and he's a player that everybody in Cleveland has seen the entire time. So I think that repetitiveness, I see Trayvon Henderson going to Cleveland. As far as the running back situation, it'll be interesting because I don't think Jalen Warren is a, a number one day
That,
one
that was
starter.
going to be my next question. And obviously, Najee is going to the Chargers. And Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator, has a history of doing good things at running back. But I will say this running back class, you mentioned it, is absolutely loaded. I mean, they're talking about potentially 10, 11 guys going in the first 3 rounds, and all of them being quality starters in the National Football League.
Mhm. Yes, I definitely see somebody falling to Pittsburgh, whether it be, Amari and Hampton won't fall there if he doesn't go to him in the first round. But, definitely Cam Scatterboot, Quinshaw Junkins, one of those players could end up in Pittsburgh easily.
Like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brands World podcast right here on YouTube.